Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamula. Today he welcomed just over 1,000 new officials in an effort to increase security capacity at South Africa's correctional facilities. For more on this, the Minister joins us now. Minister, good evening and thank you very much for your time today.
Good evening and good evening to the viewers at home.
Let's just start there, Minister, on a slightly off note, as you're hearing in the headlines there, a possible reshuffle. Are you safe? Are you comfortable that you'll still keep your job?
No, it's the president's discretion. I can't comment that because, as you are aware, I did not appoint myself.
Certainly, I was expecting that answer, Minister. But let's talk about the 1,068 new correctional officers that you have on board now as a department. In June, we saw another 923. To a correctional facility services, one would say, is currently overcrowded, understaffed, inundated with altercations and security breaches. How will these 1,068 help?
As you have said, when you include the 940 of June, it's all in all 2,000 that we're welcoming today. And it's a great milestone in a country besieged by unemployment. And they are coming into an environment where obviously there have been challenges because of COVID-19 for the whole year. And there has been natural attrition. And we are hopeful that they are going to come in and plug the gaps. It's a new cadre for correctional services. And we are also expecting that they are going to abide by the Batupilo principles. And they should join this workforce that has enabled us to sail through and survive this period of COVID-19. When COVID-19 came into our shores, there was a belief that we are just going to be collecting bodies of inmates and officials across the correctional centers when everyone looked at what was happening across the globe, where inmates and prisoners in some parts of the world had to riot and even leave correctional facilities. But none of those things happened. And even in the last 2 weeks when there were riots across the country, in the correctional services, it remained calm because the officials and the inmates work together and they refuse to be hoodwinked. So this is where these new recruits are coming into the space, and we're hopeful that they will add and bring new, fresh ideas and help us to bring new energy and bring new life to correctional services.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not just an employment process that you're trying to achieve here with these new recruits. There are some who are already in the system, seasoned officers who have been overburdened with a number of issues like overcrowding, but also just the unique environment in which they are operating in. What new skills, what new value are these recruits who are being absorbed now bringing to the system?
Indeed, they are coming into a workforce that they will have to help. And the value they are bringing is the new energy they are bringing, and also the training that they have just undergone, which also look into the new environment, which the new recruits are coming into an environment of COVID-19, which is also new to all of us and to everyone. So they are coming into the space. These are the first recruits that are coming in after COVID-19. So we're hopeful that they will be able to work in compliance with the COVID-19 protocols because they're starting with it. That is the first important issue that we believe they will help us with, but also with the new technology that we need in the various centers across the country, because we have seen that human element and human inducement has sometimes brought contrabands into our facilities. That is the other issue that we are hopeful that they will not join into bringing contrabands into our facilities, but they will be a group that is going to work with us to uproot such kind of disruptive tendencies in our facilities. So it's a new group that we are hopeful that amongst them a new generation of correctional service cadres is going to emerge.
How are you going to ensure that these new cadets don't come in and pick up the old habits of the others who are already in the system?
It's through the training that they've received, but we have also insisted that they must undergo a lifelong process of learning and training, so that they continue to revive themselves, and also they know that the foreign tendencies that they might want to be introduced into, they must refuse such tendencies. They must be ethical. They must also refuse any form of kind of corruption. They must also not take shortcuts, because the majority of them are young. So they should commit themselves to lifelong learning through empowering themselves with their further education and training, but also they also have to empower themselves with their own kind of mentorship and training within the facilities to understand the working environment that is unique to any other working environment, where you are dealing with some of the most difficult people in society, people that have been rejected, people that have been hiding from society, that they have to rehabilitate. So it's an environment that is challenging, but can also be very fulfilling if you approach it from a positive perspective.
There have been reprioritization in other departments, including yours as well, but here you are onboarding new staff. What is the budget that you have allocated to this, and how will this impact on your other work that you need to do, particularly around the overcrowding in facilities and the lack of beds?
Yeah, indeed. As you are aware, we struggled to absorb these inmates because there was a reprioritization of budget that also led to the cutting of the budget to absorb some of these new officials. We had to dig deep within the department and reprioritize for us to be able to absorb them. And we've been able to do so with the help and the engagements of National Treasury. So this also comes as a very great relief to help us to deal, as you have said, with overcrowding, which is it's besieging all our centers across the country. So this is a welcome hand that is coming in to help us to deal with this challenge that we have.
Moving on to the vaccination then itself, how far is the department in this process?
We are progressing very well, and we are able to reach our target that we have set ourselves of vaccinating about 8,000 inmates a day. And we are hopeful that by the due date that the Department of Health has set for us, we will have been able to vaccinate the number that it's required. So it is progressing very well. And what we were worried about the vaccine hesitancy, while there are one or two that are still raising issues, but the majority of inmates are coming in numbers and droves. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect their other fellow inmates in the facilities, and also the officials are vaccinating in numbers. So we are very happy with the progress that we're making.
Yeah. What, in your view, can improve that pace currently?
Obviously, is that they must continue to come and be vaccinated, because we are able to meet the needs and of those that are coming on a day-to-day basis. And even with the officials, we encourage them that those that will not be able to come to the centers, they can visit any vaccination area anywhere where they reside, which will also help them so that in case those that are off duty, they may not be at work on a particular date and so forth of the vaccination, they can do it anywhere and in any part of the country. So I think that will help us to achieve the intended objective, because this, as you have said, an overcrowded area, a clustered area, it needs people that must protect each other. They must also protect themselves.
Overall, what is your strategy? I mean, we are, of course, on the throes of a third wave, though it is subsiding in certain parts, while we are still seeing some increases in other parts of the country, like the Western Cape and so forth. What is your strategy? I mean, initially, at the onset of the pandemic, you had released some inmates on special pardons, but to prevent a possible outbreak, what is your strategy going forward?
Yeah, as you are aware, that release has helped us to prevent a huge outbreak in some parts of our centers, and hence, since that time, we've been able to manage some of the outbreaks across the country, and even up to now, it is manageable, and we believe that with the vaccination program, it will also help us to reach herd immunity quickly within the facilities. which means that we will be able to manage the virus within our centers. So up to now, we think it's manageable. The strategy that we have been using all along, it's working.
Yeah. And Minister, then talk to us about the courts. And there have been all sorts of debates around people showing in-person court appearances and so on and so forth. What is the strategy around the courts going forward?
Yeah, obviously, the courts have also been presented with a difficult challenge with the new arrest of a huge number of people. And we have now gazetted the directions that will enable the court officials, the magistrates, and the prosecutors to prioritize some of the matters of these huge arrests that have arisen because of the riots. They can also be able to prioritize some of the matters that relates to gender-based violence, corruption, and some of the matters that come in huge numbers into our court rolls that they can be able to manage. And these directives have come as a result of engagements between the stakeholders in the justice system, that is the South African Police Service, Correctional Services, the judiciary, and the NPA working together, including with the Legal Aid South Africa, which has got a huge number of the people appearing in our criminal court roll. So that collaboration is helping us to be able to manage the role, and hopefully with the numbers that are subsiding, we will further be able to manage the situation going forward.
Yeah. And the program or the campaign of introducing technology into the justice space, including the court operations, how far are you going with that particular program?
Yeah, it is ongoing, as you will be aware that, for example, with most of these arrests that are there now, we are using the automatic remand video facility, that we're able to remand some of the matters through the video facility and those technologies. But in some of the courts, they are able to use the platforms that are used by anyone, like these Zoom facilities, to run some of the civil matters, which most of you have seen. And it is looking like good that the court system is adapting to the current COVID-19 situation, and we may be able to leapfrog into the new technologies that are out there to enable our court functionalities. But obviously, it's still a process that in some, like in criminal matters, it may need us to amend some of the laws to enable, for example, criminal trials and so forth, which we're working on, so that in future you can run a criminal trial like you can run a civil matter through this kind of technology. So it's something that needs a collaboration amongst all the stakeholders, and the criminal justice review program will enable us to do that.
And any concerns around safety and security and protection of that information? I know we've seen in the recent news that, for example, the ports have been infiltrated there into their IT system. How are we securing those IT systems?
Yes, indeed. That cyber crime and cyber threats remains an impending threat, which we have to continue to work to protect ourselves. From time to time, there will be challenges, but there is work that enables us to protect ourselves and to protect that information, but also to protect some of the most sensitive information that some of the stakeholders have within the system.
Minister, we appreciate your time and thank you very much for joining us tonight. That's the Justice and Correctional Services Minister, Ronald Lamola, updating us on the latest intake of recruits, cadets that have been onboarded onto the Correctional Department, and they are, of course, there to enhance and give a boost to the vaccination process, but not only that, to address some of the questions around the overcrowding in the